So I wanted to give a big shout out over to my buddy Nordic, because he went out there and made a tweet that I saw. I was like, okay, that's a pretty interesting conversation, and because I am a salty Connor Bedard fantasy hockey owner, I wanted to go out there and make this video just to get some discourse going, not to say anything definitive about this player or the other player or their careers or whatever. We're just going out there and talking about what's been going on lately. So Nordic97 went out there and tweeted, "This conversations need to be had," and included our 2 player profile cards. One for Philadelphia Flyers forward Matvei Michkov, the other for Chicago Blackhawks center Connor Bedard. Michkov in this season's worth of play has 16 games, 6 goals, 9 assists for 15 total points, and is a -3. Connor Bedard, on the other hand, has 17 games played, 3 goals, 10 assists, 13 points, and a -6. So, of course, Nordic isn't necessarily saying, oh, Bedard is worse, Bedard's bad. I mean, he's still got 13 points in 17 games. That's okay. It's just that Matvei Michkov has had the luxury of being able to outproduce Connor Bedard at this stage of their early careers. And I wanted to dive into these 2 players, just talk about the point production, talk about my saltiness as a Bedard fantasy owner, and go over what the tale of the tape is for these guys. Now, the reason Nordic is bringing these 2 up together is because of the very infamous link that these guys have had throughout their careers, even going back years before the 2023 NHL Entry Draft. Now, if you go over to that draft, you'll note that Connor Bedard was the consensus first overall pick. That was always going to happen. There wasn't going to be a world where Connor Bedard didn't go number 1. Michkov, however, went from the 2nd overall sleeper draft pick to 7th overall. And if you go over to the history books, there were articles, there were YouTube videos like the ones that we made here on this channel back in 2020 and 2021, how Bedard and Michkov were going to be the Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin of the 2020s, like those 2 guys were back in the 2000s. That was a really good conversation to go over because it wasn't really anybody else's game to challenge. It was always Bedard and Michkov. Bedard and Michkov. These guys are the generational scorers in 2023. These videos were from 4 years ago. So a lot of these conversations were brought up multiple years before that draft season even started. And so now we're taking a look at it. Michkov went 7th, Bedard went 1st. Okay, that's not too surprising. It may be surprising that Michkov went number 7, but still, it's 2024-2025, and both of these guys have had vastly different seasons to start out the year. Michkov, as we had said, point-per-game guy. He's been getting benched here and there. He's been getting scratched here and there. But he, for the most part, has been very good. Connor Bedard, on the other hand, well, let's just say, Connor Bedard hasn't had a point in 3 games, and he only has 1 point in his last 5 games. As a guy who has owned Connor Bedard in fantasy this year, I have been so incredibly disappointed with what I've been receiving. And look, I get it, the Yahoo Fantasy chat is like the worst place to go for player analyses, because everybody in there is like me. Everybody in there is salty and pissy that they're losing their fantasy matchups every single week because guys either get injured like Darnell Nurse or Seth Jarvis, and guys underperform like Connor Bedard, like Dakota Joshua, like Jeremy Swayman. Yeah, guess who lost their fantasy matchup earlier yesterday and is really upset about it? Connor Bedard has been so bad lately. The game against Vancouver, I think, was the worst telltale sign of this. In that Vancouver game, he only had 1 shot and 1 block. Nothing else. And it didn't look like he was doing anything else either. He only really had maybe 1 or 2 good looks with that patented wrist shot of his. His face-offs were really bad the entire night, and they even talked about this on the Sportsnet Hockey Night in Canada panel. But aside from 1 point against Dallas and 3 points against the Anaheim Ducks, Connor Bedard has been pointless in, 7 out of his most recent 9 games? He gets shots, yes, he blocks a shot every 3 games or so, but other than that, Connor Bedard has had a really, really difficult stretch the past 2.5 weeks that now fantasy hockey owners are really getting upset, like me. The Hockey Night in Canada panel went out there and also had a segment about this on Connor Bedard, whether or not shifting him to the wing would be a good idea. Here's the quote: "In this league where your line matchups most nights are going to be going against juggernauts like McDavid and Draisaitl, maybe he just doesn't have that speed burst quite yet. He seems to be getting out-muscled a little bit, so sometimes when you move guys to the wing, it can protect him a little bit. But hey, maybe they want him there right now, and they want him to keep going through these drawing pains, and that's where we're at right now. So, Connor Bedard's career, obviously, I don't think this is going to be in jeopardy. I don't think Bedard is not going to be a top-line center, a franchise-caliber guy. It's just incredibly frustrating right now, at 19 years old, how this guy is not producing in the same way he did last year, and how he's been definitely having a hard time. His face-offs have not been good either. He really needs to start being able to win those, but it's hard because he uses a lower flex stick, right? So, at the end of the day, you gotta hope that elite athletes find ways to be elite athletes, and for Connor Bedard, he is not anything else. He is an elite athlete. His conditioning, his work ethic, his drive, desire, passion, skill, potential, ceiling, it's all there for Bedard. He just has to show more of it, man. He's been very disappointing the past few weeks. And a lot of Blackhawks fans will come to Bedard's defense by talking about things like line mates, he's not getting any consistencies there, maybe he's getting in his head, maybe he needs to take shorter shifts. There are a lot of conversations that Blackhawks fans have been bringing up about Connor Bedard and his play lately, but it contrasts really heavily to what we're seeing out of Matvei Michkov, Connor Bedard's character foil back from that 2023 draft season, who is up to a point per game and who has been looking better and more confident every single game too. Matvei Michkov has, 6 points in his last 4 games and 2 goals. So even though he was primarily noted as a goal scorer, which the stats might reflect that, I mean, he's got 6 goals in 16 games, he's on pace for 30 goals this season, Matvei Michkov has been playing lights out, and I don't want to discredit the team difference either, because Philadelphia is certainly a lot better than what you're seeing out of Chicago, but still, I mean, Matvei Michkov has looked so much flashier, so much looser too. He's more free compared to what Bedard has been accustomed to. And I get it, there is a sophomore slump angle to dive into as well. Because teams now have a year's worth of tape from Connor Bedard's games last year, they know how to shut him down effectively. Matvei Michkov does not have that luxury. Unfortunately, NHL teams are not looking at KHL, SKA St. Petersburg highlights to determine what it is that Matvei Michkov does on the ice and how to shut that down. They don't have the luxury to do that. So it's easier for them to shut down Bedard. It's not easy for them to shut down Matvei Michkov. Maybe Michkov goes through these same growing pains next year in his sophomore season. Who really knows? But for Connor Bedard, this is a process that players, young players, elite players always need to get accustomed to. How to adjust. Because when you come into the NHL year one, you look very good, you feel very good, you're getting points, you're scoring like crazy. Connor Bedard was under a point per game last year. He was amazing. But the year after, you need to learn how to adjust when teams adjust to you. So that ultimately is the biggest pain right here. I'd say that Bedard and his line mates, Ryan Donato, for example, they haven't been clicking lately. Donato, of course, has been a little bit better productivity-wise, and I say that because I took him in my fantasy team too. As a streamer, he has been okay. I mean, there were some games that were duds, like the Vancouver game, for example, but still, Ryan Donato has been outproducing Bedard in a pretty good capacity the past few games here, especially even with hits and shots and stuff like that. Connor Bedard has been sort of neutralized. I mean, the guy only has 4 shots in his last 3 games, and that's not Connor Bedard-like play. Other than that, he's got nothing. No hits, no blocks, no points, no goals, no assists. He's been very blah. And I lost my fantasy matchup this previous week, so of course I'm upset about that. I should have taken Michkov. I should have drafted better entirely. Honestly, I blame the fact that I was taking over a team from last year a lot on my discrepancies this year, but the keepers that I did keep have been okay lately. Darnell Nurse was amazing before he got injured. Mackenzie Weegar has been pretty good all year, and Connor Bedard was okay at the beginning of the year. Now he's really bad. I could have drafted better. I really could have. I should not have taken Jeremy Swayman with the 4th overall pick in the draft. I thought goaltending would be a very good area to focus on, but wow, has Jeremy Swayman been inconsistent this year. He sucked too! Ay. Fate just doesn't have it for me this year. My fantasy Yahoo rating is going down and down and down by the week. Either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Matvei Michkov versus Connor Bedard in 2024, how Bedard has been severely outplayed, outpaced, outperformed, and outproduced by Matvei Michkov. Circumstances are different, I get it, it's not the same situation in the slightest, but I do think the narrative needs to start getting out there because Matvei Michkov has been that good, and Connor Bedard needs to start getting his feet back under him. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 9 and bye.